Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about how to study effectively for exams, or maybe I should say how I study, because I feel like I have some tips that I've used over the years and they have been working really well for me, and maybe they can help you with your exams. So I have some things written down here, and let's just start with the first one. And it's to set timers while you're studying. My biggest problem when I'm taking exams is that I always run out of time. I can barely finish, or I finish in the last minute, and it's always so stressful. And I feel like every time I get so mad at myself that I haven't set a timer while practicing, because that would just help prepare myself for the exam. Mathematics is a good example for that, because you have to do exercises and you have to calculate things. When you have to take the exam, you only have that 1 hour or 1 hour and a half where you have to calculate so many things, or maybe you get something wrong and then you have to recalculate it. So I feel like I always lose time with that. Recently I started setting timers whenever I do maths homework, not only to see how long it takes me to do those exercises, but also to have a little bit of pressure to get them done faster. I probably wouldn't do this if you have to learn new content, because that's just going to take more time. But once you have learned everything and you just want to review it, I would recommend setting a timer and working on that, just so you see how long it takes you, and also so you have that pressure as if you were sitting in the exam. But the second advantage of this is that you can focus on a subject. Let's say you set a timer for 1 hour and you study or you do exercises, whatever, you're less likely to get distracted or procrastinate during that 1 hour, because you know you're only going to do it for that hour. So it is also going to help with procrastination. So the second tip is pretty similar to that, and it's to use the pomodoro method to study. I don't know if you've heard of this method. I think it's pretty common. So it's basically studying for 25 minutes and then taking a 5-minute break and so on. And I think after 2 hours you can take a longer break, like 15 to 20 minutes or maybe an hour. But I've used this method for so long and it really works well for me, because in those 25 minutes, it's the same like in my first tip. You don't really procrastinate, because you know you only have to concentrate for 25 minutes. That is not a long time. It goes by really fast. And taking that 5-minute break, I would not recommend going on your phone, or at least not on social media, because that's going to distract you. I would recommend just drinking water and getting up, maybe stretching for a few minutes. This is really helpful for anything, even if you're just doing homework. I remember I kind of used this method when I was in school, and we always had 5-minute breaks in between classes. And I would always try not to go on my phone during those 5 minutes. Or if I went on my phone, I didn't go on social media, because I didn't want to get distracted so much. So I would just eat a snack during those 5 minutes or talk to someone. I always noticed how much it helped me to focus compared to when I would go on my phone during the break, because then it took me longer once the class started to get back to being focused. So that's really something that I would consider if you have problems staying concentrated. So another thing is, don't make summaries. It takes up so much time. Instead of doing the summary, you could just actively ask yourself questions about the topic that you have to learn. I know that a lot of people like to make summaries. I know it looks really nice and motivates me too. But if you're short on time and you have finals coming up soon, I wouldn't waste that time to create summaries, because making summaries is not as effective as actively reviewing the content that you need to learn. There's a concept called active recall. It is a principle of efficient learning which claims the need to actively stimulate memory during the learning process. So basically what active recall is about is that you're reviewing content actively. So it's the opposite of passive learning. So instead of reading something or making summaries, which would be passive learning, you're actively reviewing your content. So how you could use active recall, you could write down questions about the topic that you're learning, not just any questions. Like really think about what is really important about this topic. What would they ask in the exam about this topic? You could do flashcards if that helps you, because that's a lot faster than writing down a whole summary, because sometimes you know that some of the things are probably not gonna be asked in the exam because they're pretty basic. So that's my tip, writing down questions and then reviewing them, because that forces your brain to stay active. And when you don't understand something, you can look it up. You don't have to summarize it or write it down, because you're gonna lose time by doing that. So I think this is a good tip if you're short on time or if your exams are right around the corner. This is a really effective way to do so. Please don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that creating summaries is unnecessary and you should not do them. If you have enough time on your hands, then go ahead. It is really motivating to create nice looking summaries, and the majority of the times it's easier to study from your summaries instead of looking through your slides where everything is all over the place. So my point is, if you're summarizing, don't copy from your slides or from your textbook. So just close your textbook and try to write down everything that you remember and try to do it yourself, because then you're not just copying everything from the book. That will help you really learn the content. If you've watched my first video, I mentioned to make an overview list of the semester, and this will really come in handy when you're studying for your exams. Okay, I know you can see, but I wrote down a list of every subject that I have to learn for math. I have to do a lot of exercises, and we have, I think, 10 topics, and every topic has like subtopics. Yesterday I was sitting down and I was trying to do some maths exercises, and I really had no idea where to start. So I wrote down this list, and it's gonna help me whenever I sit down to study for maths. I'm just gonna choose a topic from the list, and it may seem like a small thing, but it's just gonna save you some time while studying, because it is so unnecessary to lose time looking for things, looking for a pen, looking for your material, and that's just time lost that you could have used for studying. But the main reason I made this list was because sometimes it can be really overwhelming when you're trying to study. You don't really know where to start. Having a list which breaks down every topic makes it look a little bit less. So you could save time by first looking at the topics that are really important. A list is going to help you to have a clear overview over the subject. The next step I have is to have a place that you associate with studying. I guess for most people it's their desk, but I know that it can be really tempting to sit on your bed while studying. I would really not recommend that. When you always spend time on your desk studying, your brain is associating your desk with studying. So when you sit down on your bed and try to study, your brain is associating that with sleeping and relaxing and maybe watching movies. You're less likely to stay focused because it's really easy to get distracted. But if you set your desk or any other place that you want to study, it's going to be easier to get into that study mode, because you know that every time you sit on your desk, you have to do schoolwork or study. That's why I recommend only using your desk for studying if you can do that. So once you're finished studying, you can get up and go somewhere else and do something else, and that gives you the sign that you're not in that study mode anymore. But let's say you start feeling really distracted, you can change location and you can go anywhere else where you feel comfortable studying, just to have some change of location. But I'm just saying, places like your bed, you don't really associate them with studying. It's just gonna make it harder to get into study mode. So I would just choose another place if you can. It doesn't have to be another room. Like for me, it's literally just my desk. Whenever I'm done doing things for university, I leave my desk and I don't use my desk for anything else. Whatever I want to do, I try to do it somewhere else. So the next thing is to have realistic goals. You have to know what kind of person you are, if you like to study for several hours a day, or if you have to take a lot of breaks to stay focused. But don't set unrealistic goals and expect yourself to achieve them and then beat yourself up if you can't. I know, for example, I'm not gonna study for 8 or 10 hours a day because that's just not realistic for me. After a few hours of studying, I just can't process anything anymore, and it's a waste of time to force myself to get something in my head that I'm not really able to process. So for me, what works best is, first of all, using the pomodoro method and then doing that in like 2-hour sessions. And after those 2 hours, I take a break for like an hour or so and then continue and do the same thing for 2 hours. And most of the time after like 2-hour sessions, so 4 hours, for me that's enough. And I know that I won't be able to study effectively if I try to force myself to study for more than that. Of course it depends, like sometimes the day before the exam can be really stressful and maybe I will do more than that. I just know that I'm not the person to pull an all-nighter to study, because I would rather go to bed early and then wake up early the next day to study. But that's just me, and everyone has their own ways of studying, so you have to know what works for you. and then set those goals for you to be able to accomplish them. So my last tip is to have a why, or to remember why exactly you're studying. And this may sound stupid, like of course you're probably just studying to pass the exam, like you're not doing it for fun, but try to remember why you're really doing it. If you're a university student, you probably chose to go to university and you're really privileged to be able to study. You could also be doing something else, or you could be working. So if it's your own choice to go to university, remember the goal that you want to graduate. Whatever it is, try to remember it. And even if it's just passing the exam, some of the subjects we just have to pass even if we're not interested in them. So just try to remember that, and hopefully that will motivate you to stay disciplined and to try to do your best. My goal is obviously that I want to graduate at some point. So that means that if I don't pass that subject, I have to do it the next year or the next semester. So that is really something that motivates me. So before I finish this off, I just want to add some additional tips that you can implement, like having a clean environment. Try to keep your room clean, that you don't have any distractions. Personally, I can't study in my room if everything is messy. So I always make sure that everything is clean in my room, and then it's easier for me to focus. And other things are getting fresh air, taking walks if you're able to do that, maybe exercising, maybe eating a bit healthier instead of eating junk food, because you need to feed your brain nutritional foods to be able to focus. And probably one of the most important things, to get enough sleep. Even if you're implementing all of these tips, if you're not getting enough sleep, then it's really going to be hard to be able to concentrate and to sit down and study. If you're just tired, you're not going to have any motivation to do anything. These are all things that I'm doing myself and that have helped me. Maybe some of these things you already know, so let this be a reminder to you if you're having struggles with studying or getting motivated to sit down and be productive. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up because it really helps support my channel, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like this.